Spool up the FTL. It's time for Science Sci Friday on SkyWatch TV. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert, and joining me in studio, as always, the SkyWatch TV science editor, my best friend, my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie pie.
Well, welcome to the new year.
Happy New Year, happy birthday, and almost happy anniversary.
Yes, that's true.
So much happening.
It's a busy time of year for us here.
It is.
So,
by the way, before we get too involved in stories, I have to say we're all kitted out in our Scottish wear.
That's right.
Thank you to our wonderful, wonderful viewer, and who's become a great email pal, Juan and his lovely wife in Scotland.
Yeah. So even though you've got the official Ferguson.
This is the official Ferguson tartan.
That's important.
Now I'm official.
Yeah, you're from Clan Fergus.
Clan Fergus, indeed.
Now, my ancestry is mostly English and Welsh, some Swedish. Basically, between you and me, the Scots, the Swedish, the Welsh, the Swedes being the Vikings, we represent all of the people who've been fighting for Great Britain over the last 2,000 years.
We are the last, what is the show? Not The Last Crusade, but The Last Kingdom.
The Last Kingdom,
yeah,
right. That's right, yeah.
Show.
Well, and you're a descendant of Edward Longshanks.
Yes.
Which my dad thought
I'm on both sides.
My dad thought that was really funny. He said, if we ever have an argument, I should stay away from windows. Anyway.
Which is why I use
We slay us.
We do.
Well,
okay.
Anyway, a lot to talk about and some really interesting developments.
So much to talk about. And you and I share a notebook online so that we can share these stories back and forth with each other. And I know that there was one that's near and dear to your heart. So why don't you lead with that?
Well, I was curious about this one, and this is something that Josh Peck has talked about. So he's going to be here soon, and we'll be able to get his take on this. But this is something that he talked about in discussing quantum creation, his book, also the book Cherubim Chariots. But the Large Hadron Collider, which we've been paying attention to, and I know that Josh is doing more research on this for a future project, had been talking about the possible use of gravity waves as or gravitons, particles, which is really a radical thought because we think of it as a force, but scientists at the Large Hadron Collider recently discovered a very heavy particle, they think, which could prove to be evidence of a particle called the graviton. And if the graviton exists, this particle that they found, they're still trying to figure it out. One theory is that it's a bigger, heavier version of the Higgs boson, the so-called God particle.
Yeah.
Another is that this particle is like 4 times larger than the largest quarks, which they've been able to document. But again, they think if it's not this like mega Higgs boson, it could be evidence of a graviton, which could be evidence of the theory that there are other dimensions.
Exactly. I think those that look at the multiverse and the multidimensional theories and string theory are looking for gravitons.
Right.
There are some who claim that gravitons are in some ways the unifying principle, that it all sort of hinges upon that. Of course, you and I know that it all hinges upon the Lord Jesus Christ.
Right. Exactly
right. He holds
right.
all the things together. He is the graviton.
Exactly right. So scientists were kind of surprised by this. These were unexpected spikes that in their readings as they were looking for photon particles. But again, when we start getting into quantum mechanics and some of the stranger implications of quantum physics, which New Agers try to manipulate to say, well, see, it does really prove that we are just living in a hologram and we can affect reality with our thoughts, or at least what we perceive as reality. That's not at all what we're saying here.
If you really think that's step in front of the bus.
That's right. It's either you or it's the bus. It's not both, no matter how hard you try to wish it into the cornfield.
Right.
But what we're saying is that this just proves the amazing and incredibly intricate design of God's creation, and it shows the existence of dimensions beyond our perception as humans.
Yeah.
Our perceptions are limited, finite, and there is a spirit realm out there in which God exists, and we will perceive that someday, but not today. So anyway, interesting that science is coming around to it. They're just not seeing it through the right lens.
No, they're not. Well, there was another interesting sort of fringe story that relates to CERN and their search for all sorts of particles and the claim by some, even within CERN, that they probably will end up opening a portal or wormhole or a black
Looking
hole.
for
or
small black holes,
something,
right.
Something like that. There's a YouTube video that I'll send you the link to, because I'm not sure I've got it on here, that purports to show an actual wormhole opening in the clouds over CERN. And even though the gentleman who is filming it is remarking about this wormhole in the clouds, he doesn't seem to be surprised by this ball of light that tracks up and disappears in it.
Ah,
so
UFO.
it's very possible all of this is just CGI, but
Yeah.
it's also, I mean, think about the spiral that was over Norway
Right.
back in, 2008, 2009?
About
somewhere in there?
2009, somewhere in there.
That was real. And that looked incredibly fake, but real. People saw it in real time. So it's possible this actually happened, but when you're talking about that, I thought about that.
Well, it could be a Sharknado.
And in fact, it could be a Sharkano.
A Sharkano?
A Sharkano.
The sharks have doubled down. They've ratcheted up.
So, researchers who have been filming for a National Geographic special inside a volcano discovered hammerhead sharks living inside the volcano in the caldera.
Oh, wow. Now, this is an underground volcano.
Yeah.
But still, the point being that the sharks are actually thriving and living down inside the caldera.
Yeah, but my question was, how'd they get there?
I mean, it's underwater.
Oh, okay.
It's in the ocean.
Okay,
It's underwater.
okay. See, that was the problem.
Right,
if it's just underground, how did the sharks get
I'm sorry,
there?
I didn't. Not underground, underwater. So, but the point is though that the sharks are swimming around inside the cauldron, of an active volcano.
Exactly, and you wouldn't expect that to be a friendly environment.
No.
Very hot waters, probably the acidity is different than they're used to. So it's proof positive that the Lord can help whatever species to live in the environment He chooses to put them.
Yeah.
Hammerhead sharks, I don't know.
Yeah, but the Sharkano thing
Maybe
was
they're
pretty
constructing
cool.
something.
It's a weapon.
You know, we just had Christmas, and many of you may have gotten a smartwatch or a new toy, electronic of some kind. A couple of stories I want to talk about today have to do with that, and one of them is that there is a lawsuit that was just filed against Fitbit.
It's a very popular smartwatch for tracking heart rate. And,
Very much, and the claim in the lawsuit is that people were actually taking their own pulse, counting it out, and then comparing it to what the Fitbit said their heart rate was, and discovering, for instance, if you had an actual heart rate at 160, the Fitbit was calling it 82.
Oh,
That's a huge difference.
that's the difference between resting state and after running for a
very
mile
much.
or so. Yeah.
And there are some people whose heart rate should never go above a certain level.
That could be a critical
and they
difference.
may be doing moderate exercise and thinking, okay, I'm walking, and oh gosh, he told me to get my heart rate up to 150. Oh, it's only 67. So I'll just really run now. No, if this is true, and I'm sure that there will be lots of research done on both sides of this lawsuit to make sure. But Fitbit, even though they say they are not a scientific device, they seem to be making claims that they're pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So they essentially are, without using the word scientific, in many ways trying to seem scientific.
Their television ads are very slick and make it appear as though this is something that you can use
and
to help.
I'm not saying that this isn't something that could be useful. I think that this is early in the technology, and people who are making devices like this that really are perceived as medical devices by the users, they need to make sure, do due diligence to make sure that they're accurate.
Read the disclaimer, caveat emptor.
Yeah, very much so. Another story that I want to talk about has to do, again, with something you may have gotten or something like it for Christmas. I'm going to show you. This is the cutest little robotic dog.
Okay.
Little robotic dog is named Chip, and this is actually something that will be coming out soon. And your kids are going to love it. It's got little ears and a little glowy face.
Yep, I got the
when
picture
it's
up right
done
here.
playing, then you can go. It'll just automatically go back to its little bed/docking station to recharge. Honestly, if Nicole were young right now, she would so want one of these.
Absolutely,
In
yeah.
fact, I think it's adorable. The problem is, if these devices are, let's just say, proto-artificial intelligence, then in many ways these devices are being put into homes to help children learn to program. Because one of the selling points of this is that it knows some tricks already, but you can teach it new tricks. And if that's true, then there's an algorithm within this that allows it to grow.
Yeah, it shows here that says here that according to the crowdfunding campaign that they've launched to raise money to develop this, that it would follow people around using a tracking beacon.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to have some sort of radio inside in order to communicate.
If not actually Wi-Fi capable.
Yeah.
But it will be definitely, at least within your home, accessing where it is, and that's GPS. So it has to, you're right, it has to be able to track you in some way. So I think this is the future of toys. Many of them are going to be proto-AIs or little baby AIs eventually, and children will be learning robotics, language, and programming from a very early age. We already see it in a lot of schools.
Not necessarily a bad thing, but what it does is that if these replace actual pets, and as you know, parents, we can see that there will be some advantages to that.
Yeah.
But it is not necessarily teaching a responsibility as far as dealing with an actual live pet or interacting with a live human or a live animal, let's say, or a live human for that matter.
And the price point on this is very reasonable. As I recall, it was around $150. You'd spend that on most puppies.
Sure. And if it's a registered puppy, it's cheaper than if you went with an AKC registered puppy.
Add another zero to a lot of registered.
But it is not like dealing with a live thing, and this is just another step toward replacing interactions with other analog creatures like humans or actual pets with something robotic. And when you're tired of it, okay, you just turn it off, power it down, and it goes away, which you can't do with a real puppy.
No, that's true. Well, not usually.
No.
There are some, as they get older, they just want to get out of your way.
Well, Sam
and go
just likes
sleep.
snacks and naps. That's all he likes.
Well, that's me. He takes after me. But that is where it's all going. And many of these toys, as we said earlier, they're going to be connected. And they're going to be, frankly, reporting the environment to some sort of third party.
Well, and that's something I talked about yesterday, and we've talked about before, too, with things like Elf on the Shelf and other devices that have to be internet connected, like the Wi-Fi-enabled Barbie.
Yes.
But the Internet of Things will take it beyond just devices that are designed to interact with, like these toys, and start connecting and the Fitbit, which, but also connecting our appliances. In fact, I'm already seeing from Amazon.com these little buttons that you can buy and attach to your appliances.
Hit it and you get it.
You hit it and you get it. And so when you need to reorder your laundry detergent, you just press the button that's mounted by a magnet on your washing machine, and there it goes. You do the same thing with food items mounted on the refrigerator.
And make sure your children leave them alone.
Exactly, yeah. But the next step will be having the refrigerator automatically you're almost out of orange juice and milk and butter, and we'll order all of those things. But again, all of this is data that's feeding into the
massive database.
Right, the coming technocratic system.
Yeah.
And that is where all of this is going.
Well,
Smart meters are another part of that. Other devices, they're already Wi-Fi enabled light bulbs.
Yes. I saw an article just a few days ago that Intel has seen where it's all going, and they're now starting to make very, very small chips that will be embedded in everything.
Right.
Not just everything in your home, but everything you wear.
Yeah. To monitor maybe your physical system, but also to
Yes.
report on, hey, the tread on your sneakers is getting low, time to reorder.
Yeah.
The tire tread is getting low, time to reorder. There's some things there that might be advantageous, but again, all of this information has to go through a system hosted by a third party somewhere, which means it can be harvested, collected, and analyzed.
Yeah.
And that's what technocrats need in order to properly plan and control all means of production and consumption. They need data.
Yeah.
And this, the Internet of Things, is how they're going to get it.
And the more data they get from us, the more they're going to require, because in order to secure that data, we need to make sure we've got all of your fingerprints,
biometric
and maybe
information,
your eye, scan, and let's have some of that blood. Let's get that DNA profile in there. There are schools now, in fact, that are using biometric IDs just to get your lunch. Even though a lunch lady or a lunch person is standing there, the child still has to go up and do this. Well, that doesn't always work. Trials in India show that these software programs aren't always reliable. So if it doesn't scan right, I'm sorry, Johnny, I know you're you, but this says you're not. So sorry,
Yeah.
no lunch today. That's a possibility. But the other one is this massive possibility for fraud.
Yeah.
These children, if they're asked, do you want to have us to scan your thumb and say, yeah, everybody else is doing it. They're not old enough to make the decision that may forever imperil their ID when they get to be an adult.
The other thing, in fact, I mentioned this earlier this week, is that parents are discovering that technology companies such as Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, in a school setting, for the purposes of privacy, are considered school officials. So parents cannot opt out of the data that is being collected when students use certain technology. In fact, as I mentioned, Google, through its Chromebook, in the third quarter of last year, more than half of the laptops and tablets sold to school systems in the U.S., K through 12, were Google Chromebooks.
They used to be this company,
Yes.
but no
The
longer
Chromebook
because the
is
Chromebooks are very inexpensive.
Very inexpensive, and they're all connected to the cloud.
Yeah.
So not only is the student's schoolwork in the cloud, but things like chat, email, location data.
Yes.
It used to be back in the day when all they would collect is, records of vaccinations, which is bad enough, but attendance records and test scores. Now it's who they've been chatting with and where have they been. Not to mention the fact that again, there's a webcam on these things, which can be hacked and accessed. And we've seen incidents of that. But parents, again, because of the legal definition of Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and so on, being school officials, parents can't opt out and say, we don't want you collecting this information.
What a crazy world in which we live.
It is. Again, we're moving toward that technocracy.
Well, speaking of technology, and this may be our last.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There's now a drone that can carry a person.
Oh,
A
okay.
Chinese manufacturer has created what he's calling the smart taxi.
This is like the 21st century version of the rickshaw.
Yes, you might say that. It's a quadcopter that allows for a passenger to sit inside. It's beautiful, actually. It's a very elegant design. And I assume that it flies at a height that's not going to put it in danger of...
One would hope.
One would hope. But eventually, I mean, we're moving to the Jetson age so quickly. This is just the beginning. Within 5 years, lots of these will be out there. We will have all sorts of passenger vehicles and delivery vehicles that are flying around in a certain airspace. And this one is not remotely guided.
Oh.
It is autonomous.
Oh, okay. So you give it your destination, it looks it up on GPS, and then it flies you to that destination?
Very much. You get in, there's a little interface, sort of like a tablet, that you just tell it where you want to go.
Wow.
And just pray that, the overlords, the AI Cylon overlords, take you there.
Yeah, so that you're not, the little GPS system, you've reached your final destination.
Yeah, that's bad.
It might really mean it. Well, that is interesting. And we're moving into a world that to our parents and grandparents would have looked like science fiction.
It's so fast. It is so fast. And the things we talked about last year are so last year. They're so almost like last century. They seem so long ago. Just a year ago, smartwatches were relatively new. They're old hat now.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some who say that smartwatches are already on their way out. Yes, they're soon to be replaced by things you're wearing, either glasses or a headset or an embedded whatever.
Embedded technology. Yeah, that's the next big thing. Well, and this is why we spent so much time and effort on the documentary film Inhuman. If you haven't got a copy yet, we highly recommend it. Even though, as we said, the technology that we were talking about during the production of the film is almost now becoming old hat.
Yeah.
But what's more important is what are the theological implications of the transhumanist movement, because basically what it comes down to is a science fiction way of trying to fulfill the old promise from the garden, ye shall be as gods. Yeah. Well, on Tuesday, we talk about the dangers of replacement theology, the idea that God is done with the Jews and has no room for them in his end times prophecy. They've been replaced by the church. We had a wonderful conversation with Joel Richardson.
Oh, yes, he is incredible.
Yeah, New York Times bestselling author. His latest book is When a Jew Rules the World. that title really drives it home because there is a day coming when he returns and will reign from the New Jerusalem.
Amen to that. I think my hair was white in that one.
I think it was.
You know what? We need a flow chart. Sharon's hair color, Derek's tie and
suspender
suspenders.
color, yeah. And there's probably some deeper meaning that we haven't even sussed out yet.
We don't want to know.
Well, have a blessed weekend, and thank you for watching as we keep watch. For Sharon Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.